Rin and Yukio Okumura live in a monastery in the human realm, Assiah. The mirror world of this realm is Gehenna, which is inhabited by demons and evil spirits and ruled by Satan. Travel between the two realms is only possible through possession. And while most demons could easily inhabit the bodies of human beings, someone as powerful as Satan had not yet found a suitable host that wouldn't break down and die after possession. The two realms exist together, but very few lucky, or perhaps unlucky, humans have the ability to see the activities happening on the other side. These included exorcists and monks living in the monastery who pledged their life to fight evil in the name of God. They had all trained under the True Cross Academy, which taught humans exorcism and other divine powers. Yukio is the stereotypical golden child of the family. He is responsible, obeys instructions, and excels in all of his classes at school. I hate people like that, and it's not because I am jealous. He recently got into his dream university and plans to become a doctor in the future. He is kind, cares a lot for his brother, and helps wherever he can. He has also already been secretly training to become an exorcist. Rin is his fraternal twin brother and the black sheep of the family. He is the usual angsty teenage boy who keeps getting into trouble everywhere he goes. He has mostly stopped attending school and goes for work instead. However, he keeps messing up and gets fired. At his most recent job that the monastery helped him find, he managed to impress the supervisor with his cooking skills. All goes well until he runs into a young girl who is running after her scarf. He catches it and is about to hand it over to her when he sees a weird-looking creature grab it and run away. He chases after it into the store, running through all the aisles. The creature is only visible to him, and so it appears like he knocks down a stack of cans. He dives in just in time to save the little girl from getting crushed. She is rushed to the hospital and gets fired for causing so much chaos. He is sitting on a swing, scared to go home, when his brother comes and convinces him to return. At the monastery, they see the little girl and her father there, praising Rin was his help. He comments on how his daughter is always clumsy and makes a mess of everything. He says she complains and makes up stories about ghosts and other things. This triggers him, and he starts to lecture him about how he should listen to her and support her, since she may not just be dreaming these things. Father Fujimoto silences him, but then explains it to the dad more calmly and composedly after giving the girl a special charm to keep evil away. He then ground Rin for all the damage he caused at the store. Father Fujimoto is the guardian of the two twin boys. He has raised them since they were babies. He is considered to be the strongest exorcist on the planet, and he too has the ability to see through both realms. He is a tough man with strict discipline and runs the monastery with strong leadership and a kind heart. He has been in charge of keeping Rin from discovering the truth about his past and has locked away a special sword of his, the Kurikara, in his drawer. When Rin wakes up the next day, he looks out the window to see swarms of black ball creatures floating about all around. He runs out to see what was happening, but realizes that no one else was aware of these creatures. A group of boys approach him. He had fought them off a couple of days ago. He saw them harming innocent birds. The leader of the group has a concentrated amount of creatures floating around him, and some even seem to be coming out of his skin. They talk him into going with them to an abandoned plot. He keeps his distance and tries to walk away, but when he hears his brother being insulted, he turns to fight them. The leader turns into a demon boy with razor-sharp teeth, goat horns, and a tail. His friends hold down Rin while he brings a burning metal piece to his face. Rin's initial fear turns into frustration and anger, and with an explosive scream, he sends the boys flying back. He can see his body engulfed in blue flames. When the leader sees this, he realizes that Rin is in fact the son of Satan. He bows down in front of him and asks him to return to Gehenna, the world of demons. He is too confused, and before he can react, Father Fujimoto enters the scene while chanting prayers and performing an exorcism. The demon tries to attack him but fails and is finally cast out of the body of the boy. The father explains the concept of the two realms to Rin and confirms that he is the son of Satan. He was protected and kept safe all these years, but after this uproar, the evil realm is now aware of his presence and would now begin coming after him to drag him back to the other world. Another demon begins to spawn in the area, so they quickly make their way out of there. Father Fujimoto continues chanting prayers while grabbing Rin and racing away. Everywhere they run, a group of demons and monsters erupt from the ground. They keep dodging them until they reach a terrace and are faced with a pack of ghouls. He uses his holy water to evaporate them, and they run into the building. Rin thinks it's finally over, but he could not be more wrong. This was just the tip of the iceberg. The father warns him that as night falls, it would be faced with a multitude of fierce demons. Meanwhile, the gang leader has forgotten all about his possession. His friends try to remind him, and suddenly he starts talking to himself and transforming back into his possessed self. The demon has come back into his body, and he is ready to hunt down Rin again. They have made their way to the monastery, where the other monks have already cast spells all around the property to create a magical shield that will keep out any demons. Father Fujimoto leads Rin down a secret flight of stairs. He hands him the Kurikara, the sword that has held all of his demonic powers. He is told not to draw the sword unless absolutely necessary, since once he transforms into a demon, he may struggle to come back to human form. He questions his brother's nature and finds out that Satan's powers were meant to be divided between the two twins. However, since Yukio was an underdeveloped child, all the powers came to Rin. After their birth, they were given to the monastery to be protected and cared for. The demons continue hitting the shield but aren't strong enough to break through. The leader arrives at the place and hijacks a truck, which he uses to break into the monastery, allowing the other monsters to enter too. Father Fujimoto hands him a phone that has just one number saved in it and then shuts the door on him to keep him away from the monsters. The monks ready themselves for a fight and cast a number of spells to combat the attacks from the enemy. They initially manage to defend themselves from the minor demons, but when the leader transforms into a monster goat, they don't stand much of a chance. He is about to kill them all when Rin comes out and hits him with his flames. Father Fujimoto then steps in and exorcises the demon from the boy, leaving him unconscious. Rin and the father start arguing and a number of insulting things are said. Rin is being all dramatic and threatens to leave the place. He attempts to stop him, but the fight between them has hurt his soul and weakened his mind, allowing Satan to take advantage of this and possess his body. He turns back to see him collapse on the ground as his true father enters the human world. He hears a deep voice come out of the mouth of Father Fujimoto. Satan has been unsuccessfully trying for centuries to enter this realm, but has never before found a host body that lasts long enough. He claims Rin as his son and true heir of Gehenna, and tells him to return back to the Dark Realm so that together they can conquer Assiah. He creates a gate to the Dark World and starts to drag him into it. With no one else around to help, the priest gathers all of his willpower to fight against Satan and stabs himself to sacrifice his body and save Rin. His plan works and the body goes limp and falls into the gateway to Gehenna. Rin draws the forbidden sword and slices the gate, creating massive amounts of blue flames. He manages to stop the body from being sucked in. Yukio reaches the monastery and sees his dead father lying on the ground. After the funeral, Rin decides to call the number that was saved on the phone. The receiver is already present there. He introduces himself as Mephisto, the director of Japan's branch of the True Cross Academy. He believes is the son of Satan. Rin is too big of a risk to the world and must be eliminated. He offers him 3 options. He can be killed by them, he can kill them all and flee, or he can take his own life. He does not agree to any of these and instead asks to join the academy and learn to be an exorcist. Even though he is a demon by nature, he considers Father Fujimoto to be his only real dad and vows to kill Satan and take revenge for his father's death after training at the academy. Convinced by his speech, Mephisto allows him the chance to become an exorcist and redeem himself. Early the next morning, Rin prepares to leave for his new boarding school. Yukio has gone back to visit his father's grave, and Mephisto arrives at the monastery in a long, bright pink limo car to pick up the boys. Once Yukio reaches, they leave for the academy. The school is located on an island nearby, and it has tons of different buildings for all different disciplines of study. It is an ultra-luxurious property with escalators in the hallway, chandeliers in the dining hall, and classrooms as big as ballrooms. They attend the morning assembly, and to Rin's surprise, Yukio is chosen as the representative for the freshers after topping the entrance exam. He already has a huge following at school. He is least interested in the daytime classes and only wants to attend the classes for exorcists. While wandering about the school, he sees a dog and follows it out to the garden, where it shape-shifts into the academy director. After warning him to keep his identity a secret, he gives him a special key to access the classrooms for his training. They then head to his first class in a secret hallway behind one of the garden doors. Mephisto turns back into a dog and accompanies him into the class. It is filled with children much younger than him. Some of them have already gained the ability to see demons, while others are yet to go through this rite of passage. Moments later, the instructor for the pharmaceutical class enters. When Rin looks up, he is shocked to see his brother there. He introduces himself and tells the class that they would all be learning how to see demons by using a special liquid that summons goblins. Rin continues to freak out and demands an explanation from Yukio about everything. After being unable to settle him down, he sends the rest of the class outside and talks to him. In a cold and distant manner, he tells him how he has been able to see demons since birth and to help him combat them. Father Fujimoto admitted him to exorcism training at a very young age. He has quickly mastered the art and now holds a high position at the academy. Yukio blames Rin for the death of their father. This starts off a fight and leads to the goblin liquid falling down and summoning hundreds of flying monsters. Yukio pulls out his gun and kills them all without any effort while continuing to argue with him. He draws his sword and charges towards him, but at the last moment runs past him and kills the big goblin to save his brother. He apologizes to him and explains how he tried to save him, and that he too truly loved him. He has joined the academy with the purpose of getting stronger so that he can fight Satan himself. Yukio softens his heart and forgives him. The class continues, and at the end of the day, they go back to their shared dorm room. Yukio would be acting as his warden to keep him under control. The week at the academy continues, and Yukio is busy trying to get his brother to be focused on his studies. They keep getting into minor squabbles about academics and other things. Yukio is called for a consultation on campus, and he asks if he can tag along, and although his request is initially rejected, he keeps insisting and gets to join him on the field. The academy is filled with traps for demons, so everyone requires special keys to access different parts of the campus. They head to the exorcist's only shop on campus, and he asks him to wait outside and not move from there or touch anything. Being the curious teen that he is, he storms off from there and makes his way up a flight of stairs. It leads him to a gate that falls when he touches it. Inside is a luscious garden with different flowers and shrubs spread across it. A girl is sitting in the middle tending to the garden. She is spooked when the gate falls since it signifies that he is a demon. She tries to run away but is unable to because of her legs. He tries to calm her down and shows her that he isn't a bad person by helping her with her gardening and telling her stories about himself. Shiemi is the shop owner's daughter. She grew up with her grandmother, who taught her all the techniques of gardening. However, a few months ago, her grandmother met with a tragic accident and passed away. Ever since, she has spent her days glued to the garden. She still thinks she was responsible for her death and tries to find peace by taking care of the plants. One fateful day, she hears a voice coming from the ground. When she looks for it, she realizes it is one of the purple flowers talking to her. This is a weaker green demon that possesses plants but can enter humans through conversations. It lures Shiemi into talking by bringing up her grandmother and the well-being of her plants. Over the weeks, this demon drains the life force from her legs, leaving her unable to walk or use her legs. Her mother has taken her to all different doctors but has got no diagnosis. She finally calls Yukio to take a look. Upon inspection, he confirms that it is a demon in the garden that is causing all this trouble. He tries to make her leave the garden, but she refuses to leave and ends up fainting. When she gains consciousness, she wanders out again to water the plants. Rin sees her and tells her she needs to stop or she would hurt herself. When she tells him about her guilt, he is able to empathize with her and promises to kill the demon. Yukio also returns to the garden prepared to exorcise the demon, but the green monster gets agitated and bonds itself with her to use her as a shield. He draws his sword while he takes out his gun. The demon is too quick for him and dodges all the attacks by putting her in front of his sword. Yukio threatens to shoot them both and pulls the trigger. The bullet hits her, and while the demon is distracted, Rin goes in for the final slice. Shiemi goes to apologize to her mother. Her legs regain their functioning. After the events of that night, she decides to attend exorcism classes and becomes Rin's classmate. Rin spends most of his time in classes daydreaming and is never able to focus on what is being taught. In the most recent quiz, he fails terribly and is mocked by the other students in class. He has noticed that one boy, specifically Suguro, has been giving him a lot of looks and talking bad about him. He is initially impressed by his looks with the colored hair, pierced ears, and bold clothing, but starts getting frustrated when he continues being mean to him. Suguro is the prodigy student of the class who excels in all the tests and practicals. He is a hardworking and dedicated student who is determined to become a master exorcist in both holy texts and artillery fights. 16 years ago, his village temple was attacked by Satan and his demons. All the monks were brutally massacred and engulfed in blue flames. He was a scared child and hid away in a corner as it happened. The attack left the temple completely broken, and soon word about it spread around. People started calling it the Cursed Temple. Suguro had to find a new place to live. An old monk took him from house to house asking for shelter, but because he was part of the Cursed Temple, everyone was too afraid to take him in. That day, he vowed to become as strong as possible so that he is able to defeat Satan and rebuild his temple. He believes Rin is not serious about his work and tells him to leave the academy if he just wants to fool around. He constantly tries to start fights with him and bullies him for everything. When Rin and Shiemi are out in the garden, he teases them and they clash heads. Their friends realize they have extremely similar arrogant natures. The next class is focused on escaping monster frogs under the supervision of the teacher. These frogs have the ability to read their enemies' emotions by looking at their eyes. They can detect fear, anger, frustration, and other emotions, which they then use to defeat the enemy. Halfway through the class, the teacher is called away for some work. He instructs the class to stay away from the arena and not engage the frogs. Suguro's friends tell Rin about his past and ask him to go easy on him. He realizes that they really are the same in a lot of ways. Meanwhile, the teacher asks him to stay away from Rin and not get into any fights. However, teenage boys only listen to their own immature instincts. As soon as the teacher leaves, he challenges him to fight the monster frogs and prove his worth and determination to become an exorcist. He tells him to touch one of the frogs and make it back alive if he wants the bullying to end. Rin knows he can't use his sword in front of the class and may be at a disadvantage that could get him killed, so he turns down the fight and tries to back away from there. Suguro is still angry and decides to prove his own worth by going into the arena. He approaches the frog, looks it directly into the eyes, and his emotions begin altering from anger and annoyance to fear and back to frustration. The frog finds a weak moment and opens its mouth to attack him, but Rin leaps in front of him and shuts its mouth. With his demonic powers, he's able to counterattack the frog's moves and paralyzes it completely to save them both. They continue arguing, unaware that Yukio has been watching them all along. The semester has almost come to an end, and all the students are required to write an exam to qualify as a valid candidate of exorcists. Before appearing for the exam, they will all be attending a boot camp under the supervision of Yukio. He hands out forms in which they can select which type of master they are training to be. These include Dragoon, the exorcists that fight demons with firearms and other heavy artillery, Area, the ones that use holy texts and scriptures to fight, Knights, skilled swordsmen, Doctor, like Yukio, are exorcists that use spells and potions to cast away demons, and finally Tamer, the ones who summon smaller demons and use them to fight on their side against evil. Rin is inclined to selecting Knight as he already possesses sword, while Suguro goes in for Dragoon and Area. The last class of the day focuses on summoning demons using a spell sheet and a suitable chant. Not everyone is capable of learning this skill. The first student in class to summon a demon is Izumo, a purple-haired girl and a diva. She is strong-willed and comes from a line of noble women. She is, however, extremely mean to other students and looks down upon others. Seeing her master the spell and summon 2 white fox, Shiemi decides to try next. She manages to summon a small plant demon. It is a baby gremlin, and it is very rare for anyone to be able to tame these. Her past in gardening has helped her. She still does not have any friends in class and does not want to simply rely on Rin, so after class she runs after the 2 girls to try and talk to them. They ignore her, but after a lot of persuasion, Izumo decides to let her be her friend if she follows all her order. She agrees and ends up acting like a maid for her, carrying her bag, fetching her whatever she needs and doing any other tasks that she requests. She is just happy to be her friend and does not realize she is being mistreated. The boot camp begins at the boys' hostel. After a short introduction to the camp, the students are set free for the evening. The girls decide to go wash up, but Izumo does not allow her to join them and makes her wait outside. Rin finds her outside and tries to stop her from acting like an errand girl, but she gets angry and runs away. He follows her when all of a sudden they hear a loud scream coming from the washroom. A huge demon with 2 faces appears on the ceiling. It spews a poisonous liquid that falls on her and burns her skin. She collapses and Izumo quickly pulls out her spell to summon the foxes, but when they detect fear in her heart, they turn and get ready to attack her. Rin rushes in and punches them, and she quickly tears up the papers to kill the foxes. He has to keep his identity a secret and so must fight the demon with just his bare hands. Shiemi rushes to her aid, and using her Gremlin demon, she summons a special kind of herb which she places on her burns to prevent and further damage to her skin. He is unable to fight back and is pushed to the ground. Thankfully, his brother shows up in time and fires at the demon, sending him away. She wakes up and thanks them for saving her life, and then decides to quit the academy. She may have survived the attack physically, but mentally she was done for. Izumo wakes up from a terrifying nightmare. Instead of going back to sleep, she takes Rin's sweater and meets him in the hall to give it back. She warns him to not tell anyone about her mini freak-out and crying after last night's attack. He is just happy to get his sweater back and tells her he has no intention of doing so. Yukio and Rin try to figure out how the demon managed to slip through the traps. They decide for now it's best they just keep their guard up. He's lying on the terrace replaying the past in his head. When Shiemi bumps into him, she is drying the laundry to try and help everyone out. Later that day in class, Izumo is extremely distracted and lost in her own thoughts. When called upon by the teacher, she fails to give the correct answer. Like every annoying know-it-all, Shoburo butts in and recites the correct answer to mock her. She gets triggered and they start arguing in front of the whole class. They throw insults at each other, and in the midst of their fight, Rin gets hit. Yukio catches them all fighting and punishes the whole class for quarreling among themselves instead of being united. As exorcists, they need to get along since they cannot function by themselves in a fight and have to rely on each other. He leaves for a mission and their arguments continue until the light goes off. Pink Hair tries to act all brave and go check on the noise from outside. He is hit in the face by an arm through the door. After all, curiosity does kill the cat. The same ghoul from the previous day has returned to attack them. It spits its venom onto all of them. Shiemi uses her pet to summon a huge vine that pierces the demon and forms a cage around it. This causes it to split in half and form 2 separate monsters. The class starts getting sick from the venom, but it has no effect on Rin. Seeing the monster trying to break through the prison, he decides to go after it and lead away from the class. He manages to get its attention and it chases him down the hallway. He tries to find the power source so he can turn the lights back on and kill the demons. He is forced to use his demon powers and falls into the trap of Igor, a lecturer at the academy, who is testing to see if he really was the son of Satan. The rest of the class is left to deal with the second monster. The group which includes pink-hair boy, Baldy, a traumatized girl, a gardener, and an overconfident teen. They use whatever little knowledge they have acquired in class and begin chanting hymns and verses. She summons the foxes back, this time without any fear, and attacks the ghoul along with the chants from the other classmates. They manage to kill it off. Mephisto enters the room along with the other teachers who are hiding there. He reveals that the entire attack was a surprise test for the class to see how they would react. He promotes all of them and gives them time to recover from their wounds. Yukio confronts his colleague about last night's attacks and his attempts to expose his brother's true nature. He says he was just following Mephisto's orders to see how strong Rin really was and whether or not they could use his powers for their benefit. Igor is one of the survivors of the fateful night when Satan killed off all the monks. His body was possessed and used to kill his entire family. He survived with a permanently scared eye. Ever since, he has harbored a deep-seated hatred for Satan and has made it his life's mission to kill him and anything of his, which includes Rin. While talking to Shiemi in the shop about her path in the academy, they begin reminiscing over the past and the early days of his time as an exorcist. During the conversation, he realizes that Igor means to kill his brother. He rushes out of there to the hostel. Igor enters Rin's room and pulls out a large spear that he uses to stab Rin. To his surprise, it was a decoy and just a stack of pillows. Yukio had managed to move him away in time to Shimi's room. He attacks him with the same spear and draws blood to summon his demons. He fights back by shooting them with his gun while following him to the terrace. Rin hears the loud noises and runs up. He has created a magical circle and summons a very strong demon to kill Yukio. He is almost defeated when his brother shows up and stabs it, but with the help of Igor, it captures him and nearly kills him when he breaks the magic circle and casts the demon away. Igor has no intention of stopping and is determined to kill the son of Satan, but he is outnumbered and decides to walk away for the time being after warning him that there would be others that would come to kill him. Shiemi finally reaches the terrace and uses her powers to heal his wounds. At the celebration the next day, Mephisto apologizes for Igor's behavior. They are all still unaware of his true identity, the son of Satan who aims to take control of Asia, the human realm. The brothers are sitting in their room suffering from the heat. He is bored and just wants to be part of a mission. They start arguing and he hits him and breaks his glasses. Yukio is called on a mission and he follows him even though he was instructed not to. On a nearby bridge, a cat has gone feral and is destroying everything around it. None of the masters are able to control it. They have used all sorts of attacks against it along with dozens of tranquilizers, potions, spells, and others. It weakens it a bit, but not enough to stop it from attacking them. This is just not any cat, it is a demon animal named Kuro. Many years ago, it used to live at a shrine in the woods. One day, it watched as the entire place was destroyed and burnt down with hellfire after an attack by Gehenna. It lost all its caretakers and could not handle being alone. To deal with the grief, it started causing havoc on the village nearby. The villagers were unable to see the cat due to its demon nature, and so when things started breaking and falling without any reasonable explanation, they believed that they were under some sort of curse. The village shaman was called but was of no help either. Finally, Father Fujimoto and his monks arrived, and instead of killing the demon, he tamed it and calmed it down. It became his companion and lived with him. After learning of his death, Kuro went back into full rage and started attacking everything around it. Rin remembered the box his father had given him in case this ever happened to Kuro. He hands it over to his brother and then steps back to allow him to deal with the situation. However, after a moment, he decides to use his demon voice to communicate with the cat himself. He calmly explains who he is and that he means no harm. The cat goes wild and is unable to digest the fact that Father Fujimoto really is gone. Rin continues comforting it and offers his hand in friendship instead of resorting to violence. The cat starts crying and mewing but ultimately calms down. Mephisto and his brother, the other sons of Satan, monitor the situation from a building nearby. Meanwhile, Yukio opens the box from his father. It is a special treat specially created for the cat. Kuro excitedly jumps up and down for the silver vine's sake, and he finally pours it out for her. She is now their pet. The academy sends out Rin, Izumo, and Renzo for their first mission to a coastal region nearby. The town has been having several complaints about a sea monster. She goes for a swim and ends up with a leg cramp, but is saved by a short boy who was swimming nearby. He introduces himself as Yohei and shares that 6 months ago his father had set out to face the sea monster, the Kraken. He never returned and no one knows what has happened to him. They assume he was killed. As they wait near the beach, the kraken appears again, and Yohei jumps in to fight it and get revenge. The monster breaks the bridge with its giant tentacles. He shoots it in the head with a crossbow while riding in on a boat. It turns to attack him, and just in time, Rin manages to save him from drowning. They hear a man screaming is Yohei's father, who is alive and well. He tells them it is a friendly demon and would not attack them if they step back. The mission is complete, and the group returns back to True Cross Academy. For the next assignment, the students are taken to Mephisto's amusement park. There have been several sightings of a ghost that was haunting the park. It is a young, mischievous boy pulling pranks all over. The class is divided into teams of 2, and they are tasked to find the ghosts. In case any team finds it, they must immediately report it to one of the teachers. Rin and Shiemi are paired together. They are both nervous and awkward to be working on the same team. Shiemi is excited to visit an amusement park since her social anxiety never allowed her to go to one as a child. As they are walking through the park, they come across a carousel that begins turning on its own, signifying there is a ghost nearby. A young boy is seen sitting on one of the horses. He is sobbing, and as soon as she gives him attention, he hits her and runs away. They try to chase after it and land up near the mirror house. She enters it and tries to follow its voice, but is blocked by the mirrors. The ghost leads her into the cup ride and speeds up to maximum, leaving her nauseous. When she finally gains back her composure, she follows him into the ball pit and at last manages to grab him. Meanwhile, Rin waits outside and tries to contact the teachers. His sword is stolen by his demon brother, who tests out his powers in relation to the sword, which causes his body to erupt in blue flames. He plays around and teases him with the sword on the roller coaster ride. Without his sword, he gets beaten up easily, and only after he is pinned to the ground does he really start to fight back. He unleashes his demon powers and hits back. One of the rods pierces the bouncy house, almost suffocating Shiemi. Rin goes to save her and is hit by a Maimon. He is about to break his sword, but is stopped by a girl nearby who draws her own sword. Realizing he is overpowered, he decides to escape for now. The girl is no ordinary student. She is a master exorcist who used to teach at the academy. She is now an inspector for the academy. Rin is ashamed at how he lost control of his powers and went wild. He felt extremely weak and was barely able to fight back against his demon brother. He had to do his best to level up his training if he wanted any chance of defeating Satan. The ghost thanks Shiemi for playing with him and then disappears. The inspector, Shura, has been sent by the Vatican to inspect the possible relation between Rin and Gehenna. She hides her identity and infiltrates the academy as a teacher. She used to be an apprentice of Father Fujimoto. He trained her into becoming a master knight, and she has immense love and respect for him. Before he died, he had asked her to look after his sons and keep them out of trouble and safe from any danger. She is to teach him the right way to wield his sword and use his powers. She drags Rin into the staff room where Mephisto is already waiting to greet her. She questions why he was using the academy to hide the son of Satan. He claims to only be harboring him as a weapon against Gehenna. Nevertheless, she will be reporting all of this back to the Vatican. In case their hunch was true and he really was the spawn of Satan, her instructions were to eliminate him at the earliest, but she is conflicted about how to proceed due to her commitment to Father Fujimoto to protect him from any harm. Shura decides to test him out for herself and takes him to an isolated room. After distracting him with a story, she steals his sword right off his back. The interrogation continues while Yukio and the others are forced to helplessly wait outside. She summons a special sword from her body and tells him she would be ending his life today, and then proceeds to send a shockwave towards him from the sword. He is hit and sent flying back. Without time to recover, she strikes him again. When he hears her insult his father, a new fury ignites inside him and he begins fighting back. She summons serpents and stabs him with the sword. Rin screams at her and tells her of his aims to kill Satan and avenge his father. She laughs at first, but realizes he was being genuine and that he truly did love Father Fujimoto. Knowing that he was fighting on the side of the human realm, she lets go of him and gives him a chance to prove himself. Rin sits on the roof with his cat and remembers the words of his father about being a stable individual and control his actions against others. He uses his time to train with Kuro. Shura takes over teaching one of their classes. Rin begins attending his classes and focusing with a new spirit. Summer vacation begins and the class is taken out for a 3-day drill in the forest. The boys go out to set up the tents and gather wood, while the girls work on drawing a magic circle around the camp to keep them safe from any harm. Rin volunteers to cook their dinner. As they all sit around and eat, he realizes that for the first time in his life he has people he can actually call friends. Their first task on the camp is to find and retrieve special lanterns that have been hidden all over the forest. They are given limited supplies in their backpacks and must use their skills and powers to overcome the obstacles and bring back the lantern. Only 3 lanterns have been places for them to find. The mission is each man for himself, giving them a slimmer chance of survival. They all head out into the forest by themselves and are almost instantly attacked by moths. Using different techniques, they run away from the insects, but Shiemi is attacked by another monster too. She screams for help and Rin rushes to her and without realizing releases his blue flames. He's trying to revive her when Suguro enters. He too heard the scream and came to help. A few minutes later, several others gather. They decide to support each other and complete the mission together. When they reach the first lantern, it is evident that it would be impossible to transport this on their own. They get a cart and create a plan to carry it. Once the lantern is lit, the demon would come alive and try to escape. They use a spell to paralyze it. Two others are tasked with keeping away the moths while Rin uses his strength to pull the cart. The plan works successfully until they reach a creek filled with snakes. They have to figure out a new strategy. They allow the lantern to chase Shiemi across the creek before Baldy paralyzes it again. Rin accidentally breaks the bridge and awakens the moth demon. With his giant antennas, it captures his arms and legs. The class comes together to fight for his safety. They work together, and using a combination of different spells, they are finally able to defeat the moth, but their lantern runs away. A long chase later is seized again and put on the cart. Rin thanks Suguro for his help, but he brushes it off as nothing more than a debt paid. He appreciates him for having the same kind of ambition and desire to kill Satan, and praises his skills against the evil demons. He also tells him he needs to let go of his habit of trying to win everything on his own and should learn to take help from his friends. In fact, if he stood any chance of defeating Satan, it would only be with the help of others. The other classmates agree and they make their way back to the camp. When they reach the campsite, they see other two lanterns have already been returned by the rest of the class. Shiemi starts to feel uneasy, and when they look up, they see a Maimon and his monster pet landing there. He has come back to challenge Rin to another fight, and using firecrackers, he got Yukio to leave the site. Mephisto sits in his floating throne, sipping tea and watching the fight unfold. With the power of the magic circle, Shura summons demon snakes and creates a mega explosion that sends him and his pet flying into the distance. They end the drill and begin preparing for the attacks from the Devil Brother. She drenches each one of them except Rin in holy water to minimize any damage that they may suffer. Yukio is still stuck in the forest fighting the moth monster. She isn't too worried because of their defense, still she gives him back his sword so he has full access to his powers if the time comes. Shiemi appears to be in a trance and starts walking to the end of the circle. The demon reveals she is under his control due to a parasitic attack. Rin runs after him to save her while she stops the monster pet. He attacks him with his covered sword and ends up getting smashed into the ground. The others see him struggling and leave the magic circle to help him. The three boys reach them and shoot a flaming cracker at high. However, even together, they stand no chance against him and are quickly defeated. Rin is forced to draw out his sword and reveal his true identity in order to save his friends. He erupts into blue flames and the demon lets go of Suguro and goes after him. They use the time to heal Shiemi and carry her away. The battle continues and he defeats a Maimon but loses control of himself and goes on rampage. This ends in his sword cracking and breaking. Rin heads towards his classmates with fury in his eyes but calms down and returns to his normal self when she hugs him. The whole event was seen by Arthur Angel, who is an employee of the Vatican. His guards capture Rin and he holds Shura behind a sword. He has received orders to bring back Mephisto as a disciplinary hearing would be held against him at the Vatican, and she would be witness. They will also be imprisoning the son of Satan. He hands over the sword to Yukio and goes along with them. The group sits around a bed as their teacher tells them the truth about Rin and his past. They are shocked but still have faith in their friend. After much discussion, they discover that his sword was made in the same place where Suguro grew up. If they could take it back there and get it repaired, they may be able to contain his powers and save him from having to be executed. They think about this plan and slowly agree to help him out and save his life. They reach the village in Kyoto and his sister runs out to greet him with a hug. As they explain their reason for coming, she tells them that although it would be possible to repair the sword, the metal isn't easily available. No one alive today knows where or how to mine this ancient metal. Suguro remembers the old burnt-down temple that has leftover nails made from the same material, so they head there in a tram to retrieve it. Once inside the temple, the statues of gods talk to them and try to convince them that it is not worth saving Rin, and that he would only cause more pain and suffering to the world. They start to believe their words when the others throw enchanted cards at the statues and break the spell. They come back to their senses to fight them, and with a chance, they exorcise out the demons from the statues. The monks are revived and hand them the nails that they needed, which they bring back to his sister who repairs the broken sword. At the court in the Vatican, Rin is held in a special demon cage while Mephisto is made to defend himself. He explains how he planned on using him as a weapon against Satan to protect the human realm. They cannot believe him, but when the court is hit by an underground demon attack, he takes the opportunity to make a wager and convinces them to see the true power of Satan's son and how he could be used to their advantage. They agree that many demons have in fact proved to be useful over the centuries, so they allow him one chance to prove his worth. As the sword is mended, he slowly gains consciousness in prison. Amusement and his pet launch a final attack to defeat Rin once and for all. His friends arrive at court with the sword and dodge the demon to get the sword to him. When he finally holds it, he awakens and kills the demon brother with a single powerful strike. Arthur Angel pulls out his sword to kill Rin, but the elders of the court have changed their minds and ask him to stand down. Mephisto returns to the academy and holds a special staff meeting to inform him of the son of Satan being a student at their school. He sees great potential in him and will do everything to train him into the best exorcist possible. Rin must protect his sword since it won't be possible to repair it again. The class is assigned to catch all the flying demons in the classroom and clear it up. The class has mixed feelings about his return. Even though they saved him, they dislike his satanic powers and are distrustful of his intentions and abilities. They are afraid he will lose control again and harm them. Yukio pulls him out of there and takes him to a separate classroom for his expedited training. Shura joins them to help with his lessons. The training begins in full swing. He must learn to use his flames without having to draw his sword. It is the only way he can be useful in an attack without losing control again. Shura and Yukio remember their training with Father Fujimoto and challenge each other to a playful fight while Rin continues his practice. They discuss the future of Rin and the Vatican, which has been keeping a close eye on them. Baldy sits alone on the terrace in fear of Rin. He hears a dark voice from the sky and two bright red eyes heading directly towards him. The dark, ominous figure starts to take the shape of a giant crow, and before he can react, the demon possesses him and uses his body to enter the protected True Cross Academy. Rin and Izumo pause their practice when they hear a thunderous sound in the hallway. The demon crow has made its way to the basement where he was training and flies directly in his direction. She summons her fight foxes, but with a swift gust of wind from its wings, the papers are destroyed, and with it, the foxes too. He tries to fight the demon, but is quickly overpowered and thrown to the ground. A shot is fired, and the crow loosens its grip. Yukio is standing in the doorway and aims another shot at it, which causes it to break the window and escape. Once again, the school's defenses were broken in, and Mephisto had no choice but to summon all of the exorcists across the island for an emergency meeting. The students were put on inspection duty to check each and every trap laid out around campus, while the master exorcists broke into groups of 2 to search for the whereabouts of loose demons. Shura and her colleague followed a snake kufu to an abandoned van, but it was no ordinary van. It acted as a gateway to another world covered in snow. She went in to look for any suspicious activity and reached a cemetery plot with a lab that had been used to test artificial life. This practice had been banned by the Vatican a very long time ago. Whoever was using this alternate world for their spells was up to no good. She returned back to his office to report her findings. The crow dropped him off on a roof and then began reminding him of all the damage Satan had caused him in his hometown. It tries to feed off of his hatred and fear to convince him to use the demon power and kill Rin, the son of Satan. After resisting it initially, he finally surrenders to the promises of the Gufu, allows himself to bond with the demon, and heads straight to the room where he was training. He pretends to get hit by him and runs out to Suguro and the others to gain their sympathy. They are still unaware that he has been possessed and lash out at Rin for using his flames and attacking a classmate. He tries to explain what was happening, but is cut off by his brother. In a rage, he sends another hit to the demon, but knocks out Baldy instead. He is taken to the infirmary to rest. When he wakes up, he talks to Suguro and tries to share his fears, but the demon crow overwhelms him and takes over his body. He runs out to warn the others. Yukio and Rin are on the campus ground practicing together when possessed Baldy attacks them and uses a wind barrier to stop his bullets. His classmates yell and remind him of who he really is and that he had nothing to fear. Rin tells him to trust him and catches him while slicing the Gufu with his sword. It is evident now that someone out there is using one of the academy keys to infiltrate the defenses. To lighten up the mood and take a break from all the stress they've been through, the class decides to throw a surprise party for Izumo's birthday, but she finds out about their plans and instead suggests they do a group celebration for everyone's birthdays. They have a great time preparing for it. Unfortunately, however, God is kind of a jerk to everyone in this world, and before the party can end, Yukio gets a call informing him that their monastery has been attacked. The twins rush to their former home. On arriving, they see a group of policemen already there. The whole place is covered in thick spider webs, and 2 monks are lying on the floor completely wrapped in this strange substance. The other monks are trying different spells to get them out fit. The attacker was a masked person who had already escaped. Rin goes looking for him while Yukio tries to stop him. He finds him in an alley, and the masked man threatens to kill him and anyone else who is connected to Satan. Before running away, he seals the sword with his web. His brother follows him while Shura holds back Rin. In a clock tower, he finds the one-eyed professor who had previously threatened to kill them, but before he can shoot, the ceiling collapses and he disappears. Rin is back at the academy trying to unseal his sword to prevent him from running off on his own to find the masked villain. Yukio tranquilizes him. Along with a group of trained exorcists, they used a special talisman to track the webs, but reach a dead end in the sewers. Once Rin regains consciousness, Shura forces him to first harness and learn control over his flames before he goes back out to fight. He gathers all of his willpower and practices using his powers in a controlled manner. Meanwhile, the masked villain had already reached True Cross Academy and was being fought off by the students. They were no match for its powers and ended up being held hostage as the police and other exorcists, including Mephisto, waited outside. Yukio still goes in to try and save his brother, but gets caught in the webs. The masked villain retaliates by almost killing one of the students, but Rin and Shura break into the room and stop his attack. He activates his blue flames and manages to dissolve the webs, thereby freeing his sword as well as all those trapped around him. With one swift move, he strikes the attacker, who lands on the ground outside. Shura cracks the mask and realizes is the wife of the one-eyed professor. He pushes her off and allows his wife to escape. The monks rejoice in the monastery over their victory and thank Rin for saving them. Yukio is approached by a stranger and taken to Ernst Frederick, his grandfather. Ernst shows him a picture of his mom, Yuri. After the massacre at the monastery, the Vatican misused their power and went on a hunt for everyone connected to Satan. She was falsely accused of being a witch and was burned at a stake for the whole world to see. He was also imprisoned for being the father of Yuri and forced to stay away from his grandchildren in order to protect their identity. Over the years, he had gathered an army of his own in an anti-demon dragoon research lab. He now planned to take over the True Cross Academy and become the leader of the Knights and Exorcists to put an end to all evil so that peace could prevail. He invites his grandson to join him in this mission and become his right-hand man. Back at the academy, Shiemi calls Rin to help her with a situation in her garden. He was at the interrogation of the one-eyed professor, where he finds out that his wife had died many years ago by Satan's blue flames. He had cryopreserved her body in his lab, where he spent most of his days. One evening, he discovered that the box was open and her body was missing. She was sitting at their table and calling for him. He quickly realized that a demon had possessed the body, but he did not have it in himself to hurt his wife in any way, so he allowed himself to enjoy this extra time he had to spend with her. Sadly, it did not last very long. As they were sitting near a fire, she was attacked by blue flames. This caused her to remember how she had died, and she became consumed by the need to seek revenge. Rin reached the shop and went into the garden to look for Shiemi. The lady who she had found lying unconscious there was Michelle, the undead wife. When he saw her, he immediately drew his sword and prepared to attack. She pulled out a dagger and held it to her throat, but ends up fainting. Shiemi begs him to calm down and not kill her because she believes she isn't bad. He walks out to find the Vatican army had arrived there to exterminate her. They drag her out when her husband throws in his sword to defend her. He is about to be killed, but Rin steps in just in time. Seeing him trying to protect them, she realizes that even though he is the son of Satan, he is still a good person. Shura tries to stop him from rebelling against the Vatican group, but to no avail. Michelle gets shot by one of the men and dies in his arms. To stop them from being arrested, the green men create a barrier of vines all around. The army retreats back to the Vatican, where they find Ernst and Yukio in the place of the judges. Ernst wants to completely destroy Gehenna using a superweapon they've developed over 15 years. He orders all exorcists to go on a crusade and purge the world of every single demon, no matter if they are good or bad. All students are handed over special weapons to exterminate the demons. Every time they kill one, their weapon would grow stronger. The only thing left now was to find a gateway between the two worlds. Yukio's grandfather promises him that he can save his brother and return back to a normal human state by following instructions. Holding on to this hope, he finds his brother on camp with a class and knocks him out to take him back to the Vatican army. The plan is to use Rin as a sacrifice in order to open the gates to Gehenna, and he is restrained as they begin chanting their spells, and Ernst uses the demon's sword to stab the ground and summon the dark world. The plan works, and a gateway is opened. Yukio is shocked to see his brother being hurt and loses faith in his grandfather. When he enters the circle, his body erupts into blue flames, and they realize that he too possesses the powers of Satan, and they have been awoken now. The students watch in disbelief as the events unfold in front of them. Outside, Shura is engaged in a fight with Arthur Angel. As the gate opens, he orders the superweapon to be dropped into the gate, but it is not strong enough and causes no damage. Instead, a huge swarm of demon locusts fly out like thick smoke, engulfing everything they pass. Ernst falls into the gateway and starts getting sucked in. Yukio hears the voice of Father Fujimoto and realizes it is Satan talking to him. He tries to fight it and blames him for all the bad things that have happened. That's when Satan shows him flashbacks of the truth. Yuri was sent by her father to search for demons and kill them. One day, as they were walking through a haunted forest, all her companions burst into blue flames and collapsed, but she remained unharmed. She decided to stay back on the mountain and look for this flame. After a few days, she found a wolf that was glowing blue. It seemed aggressive and tried to bite her, but she spoke to it kindly and calmed it down. Satan had possessed the wolf. She offered herself instead to host him. They spent many months together as she showed him what it meant to be alive and human. Her father, the leader of the Vatican, found out that she had been possessed by him and sentenced her to death. She was already carrying his children, and with his powers, he helped her escape to a cave in the mountains. Father Fujimoto and Mephisto were sent after her to find and kill her along with the babies. However, when he found her in the cave, she passed away on her own and he could not bring himself to harm the twins. So he decided to take them and raise them to be good humans. Mephisto also agreed to the plan. Yukio got hold of Ernst and asked him if this was true. He confirmed it to be the truth, and in his rage, he struck him with the flames. This moment of intense hatred and weakness gave Satan the chance to possess his body. Rin wakes up to see Yukio transformed, and he soon realizes Satan has taken over his body. Satan knows that just like the previous time, Rin had the ability to shut down the whole gate and his plans, so he plans to terminate him first. His friends step in and challenge him to a fight. They use a number of different spells and skills, but none of them has any chance in front of him. He quickly knocks them down until Shura comes into the fight. She instructs Shiemi to take the others and retreat to a safer place. Once they are back at the academy, they come up with a plan to close down the gate and defeat Satan. She wants to destroy Yukio's body, but he convinces her to give him a chance to save his brother. The entire island is drowned in the demon monsters that were being unleashed from Gehenna, so the rest of the class goes on a mission to help evacuate everyone and save them from being attacked by these pests. One by one, they gather everyone in a special safe zone that cannot be accessed by demons. Shura and Rin head back to the terrace. First, she tries to call out Yukio from his body, but fails. Shiemi enters next and begs him to listen to her voice and fight his way out. Satan grabs her and lifts her up, which causes Rin to come out of his hiding place. He calls out to his brother and reminds him of their bond. Yukio hears his voice and tries to escape Satan's hold, but before he can revive completely, he shoots Rin. This shock sends him into a full rage and he takes control of his body. To save his brother, he tries to shoot himself and sends Satan back, but he stops him and forces him out of being possessed. Even though Satan was exorcised from Yukio's body, he still held power in the human realm and intended to destroy everything. Arthur Angel with his mega sword, Shura with her transforming blade and excellent combat skills, and the two brothers all joined forces to fight the demons that were spawning. They managed to take out a lot of the enemy, but were still overpowered and defeated. The Gate of Gehenna moved over the city, striking down anything in its way and creating new portals for demons to enter the realm. Kuro, the cat, found its way to the terrace and transformed into a giant so it could carry the brothers on its back and help them follow the gate. While traveling through the demons, they used their power to kill as many as possible. Meanwhile, the number of monsters multiplied so much that they were able to break through the safe zone of the academy and infiltrate the halls. They were no longer safe there. The exorcists, along with the students, managed to come up with a quick plan to weaken the enemy. They gathered all the mirrors they could find in the academy and stacked them strategically to face each other. Once each mirror reflected off the other, they opened the door to the outside and allowed the sunlight to hit the mirrors and get magnified, and then pointed it in the direction of the monsters. The massive rays of the sun burned them and weakened their powers, and they began retreating. This gave Rin and Yukio an opening to strike and destroy the gate. They joined their forces and transformed into a bird that took them to the gate. With the demon's sword, they struck it and caused it to explode into a burning blue light. Satan had been defeated and the city was saved. The brothers returned back to their friends and celebrated their victory. A month later, things had gone back to normal as classes began in the academy. Mephisto was reinstated as the director of the school and Yukio was back to being a teacher. Demons still continued appearing in the realm, but the exorcists were always ready to fight them and protect their world. That's it for this video. Don't forget to like and subscribe and watch the next video on screen.